So I don't know how to start off the show. That's how I'm going to start off the show. So yeah, this is the tentatively titled podcast presented by allcomic.com, the Manga Mavericks podcast. I don't know if this is gonna be an episode 0 or episode 1 kind of thing. I'll decide that later. So yeah, you've probably never heard of us before, and that's because we're kind of new to the site.
Totally new.
Very, very, very new, in fact.
Like just joined in January.
Yeah.
And when this goes up, it'll like be February probably. So.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's safe to assume. So yeah. Again, we'll go into this in a little bit, but I never know how to start off new podcasts. What is this like?
That's why I thought we should have done like the introduction. I thought, like, we're the Manga Mavericks, and we'll get you up to speed with what's new and hip in manga, all nice and quick. See,
I mean, yeah, no, I see what you mean, but first off, I feel like that slogan has way too many words.
Yeah, it does. It's
doesn't
definitely not as catchy as the Nostalgia Critic or Lankara or pretty much any like any memorable internet reviewers like intro. It's got to be a lot shorter.
Well, we'll work on it.
Yeah,
we'll
find it.
This is a new show, so we're kind of getting our feet wet. Not, I mean, more so with we probably haven't even introduced ourselves.
No, yeah.
I'm Colton, and I do way too many other podcasts.
And I'm Sid, and I have done almost no podcasts before this.
So so you're a podcast virgin.
Well, I mean, no, because I have recorded 2 podcast episodes before this, so this is my 3rd time.
Oh yeah, that's so many podcasts, Sid. You're such a veteran.
Well, a virgin would it be your first time doing it? So
well, I guess, but I mean, I don't know. I wonder if that's the kind of stuff we could talk about on the show. I forgot to ask. I mean, I'm assuming we could probably be like PG-13.
I mean, consider some of the comics that are being reviewed on the site. I mean, there are some like a lot of comics nowadays have some pretty like they have some pretty intense content sometimes. So I mean, we haven't even said any bad language yet. So I think we're good.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna refrain from doing that on this show. Otherwise, I wouldn't care.
Well, yeah, we're not gonna. We'll try to avoid saying any explicit language.
Yeah, try to keep this somewhat family friendly.
We'll keep this PG.
I still say PG-13 because PG-13 means we could talk about all kinds of mature ideas.
Yeah, I just realized that today's PG-13 is the same as PG back like 20 or 30 years ago, because content standards have like kind of become lame when it comes to PG movies. Because nowadays a PG movie is like, oh well, this movie can babysit our kids, and PG-13 movie, though that's where like that's where people put like the heavy. Well, not even heavy content, but that's where they put like more kind of like that's the stuff that you probably want to go have your kid like see with their parents. But like back in the day, like there were some, I mean there are some PG movies back in like the 80s that if they were made today, they'd probably be PG-13 now for sure, or they'd be. Maybe some PG-13 movies back in like 80s or 90s would be rated R today.
All right. Settle down there, Sid. Enough with the tangents. I think we need to actually talk about what this show's all about.
Yeah, we're not about movies. We're about manga.
Yeah, those crazy Japanese comics and all that kind of stuff. So basically, we both kind of answered the call. Because I think All Comic was looking for people specifically to, talk about or write about manga or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I was like, hey, I guess I'll do that. And then it turned out, oh, that Sid was going to do that too. So
yeah. I saw it on my feed. Like someone retweeted it onto my feed, and I was like, I'm looking to, write more stuff about manga. Maybe do a podcast. Maybe if like I could find someone do a podcast about a manga topic or something. So let's go for it. Why not? So I contacted Tyler, and then I found out that like you were also interested in doing like a podcast, and so he hooked us up, and here we go.
Yeah, don't expect anything written from me anytime soon, because honestly, I told Tyler up front that I do not like writing. There is a reason I prefer doing podcast over writing, honestly, because I prefer going on and on and on about things I love instead of actually writing them down. Because I don't know, that always seemed kind of tedious to me personally, but I respect people who write for a living and actually enjoy doing that kind of thing. But again, I guess people could like also say the same thing about podcasting, because podcasting is kind of hard too. But anyway, we should really get onto what we want to talk about for this particular episode. We're just gonna kind of get our feet wet this episode, because we have a lot of ideas about what we want to do with this show in particular. So I don't know where to go from there. So I think what we want to do with this show, maybe we want to talk about a bunch of different things. We don't want to just stick to reviews and all that kind of.
There's already so many review podcasts out there. We're gonna try and mix it up.
Yeah, and plus I myself personally, I kind of already review manga for another manga podcast, so if I had to, it wouldn't make sense for me to do another manga review podcast, honestly. So me and Sid figured we could just talk about a bunch of different manga related things, like news, news such as like, I was thinking maybe comic rankings, like stuff like the New York Times best-selling graphic novel manga list. I think Oricon has like a manga ranking as well, too.
for Japanese releases.
Yeah, so maybe those might be interesting as well, because it's interesting to see what's popular in both the West and the East. And I'm sure we'll probably talk about stuff like new releases, new licenses, and all that kind of stuff. More current manga happenings, I think, is something we want to focus on here. Among other things. I was thinking maybe we could also like you and me were thinking maybe we could possibly like come up with some different topics of discussion. Like I don't know, just off the top of my head. I don't know if we'll do it too soon, but maybe like, I don't know, say we want to talk about manga piracy or
it's already starting off with the heavy stuff.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll get to that stuff too soon, because I have thoughts on that kind of stuff. I'll just say that. I don't know about you, but we can talk about that another episode once we record enough of these shows or whatever. What else did I want to talk about? Talk about just all kinds of news, really. Expect more news maybe in the next episode.
Well, do you want to comment on some stuff like this episode?
Yeah. What's up?
Well, I mean, we can comment on the New York Times best-selling list for the week of January 3rd through 9th, which was the last list that was released, and there was some news about Ajin that was kind of interesting. We could discuss.
I don't think I've heard about this. Is the manga for that being licensed or something?
No, the manga for Ajin has been licensed for quite a while now.
That's right. I forgot.
I mean, it's not really news. It's just an interesting comment from the mangaka, because the mangaka for Ajin, he used to actually be an hentai manga artist, and
really?
He tweeted recently that once Ajin is over, he wants to go back to drawing hentai. So
that's interesting.
There we go. That was mentioning a current kind of event that happened recently in manga. So there we go. We're already starting.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, we'll talk about current stuff like that. And I think that's about it for like all like the kind of news we want to talk about. I can't really think of anything like super specific. Just various things. I was thinking like, maybe we'll attempt to review every once in a while. Maybe if we both find something that we really want to talk about. I think since I already do sort of manga reviews for another manga podcast, I think we're not gonna like stray away completely from reviews, but we're not gonna focus too much on those. I think it's safe to say if maybe we both find something that we've been reading recently that we want to like, something that we love so much or hate so much, I don't know, something that we think we can fill an episode with, I think maybe then we'll attempt that kind of stuff. But otherwise, that's not going to be the focus of the show. Again, this is going to be we're going to be talking about a lot of various things, probably mostly news. So yeah, just to let people know what they can expect. But with that being said, I think if we also have time during a normal episode of the show, correct me if I'm wrong, Sid, but you have a subscription to Weekly Shonen Jump, right?
Yep.
Okay, that's cool. And I do as well. So I figured, not that every episode will be dedicated to this kind of thing, but I figured we could both kind of talk about Jump every once in a while because, for those of you who are listening to this and are super into manga, I don't know about you, Sid, but I am a super, super huge fan of Jump. And
I love Jump.
And we'll get to this in a little bit, but Jump was kind of my first like stepping stone into manga fandom. That's kind of how I got into manga. So obviously, if we have the time to, I would love to talk about Shonen Jump. Not any particular series. Just talk about Jump in general. What's going on, how we feel about the manga lineup in general every once in a while. If there are any particular series that are that we think are doing better than the others or keeping our interests more than the others. I know I have a lot of those myself. So that's something I think we could probably talk about too. Just talk about, stuff we're reading in general. Like maybe we start off an episode and we get done talking about news and we want to fill time, maybe I'll be like, hey, Sid, what are you reading lately? And then Sid will probably say something like, oh, well, I've been reading JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
I already read all of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Well, I know, but I'm just using an example.
Like maybe like the newest chapter of JoJolion, but
something like that. Yeah, just just general stuff like that, really. I'm
always reading stuff, so it'll be probably different each time.
Myself, I actually haven't been reading a lot lately just because I've been busy with a lot of stuff. So, thankfully, we're not talking about that kind of stuff this episode because I wouldn't have much to say other than, I'm reading stuff for other podcasts that I do. We
might comment on some stuff at the end, at least one series or something.
Something like that. I don't know. Well, we'll see. We'll get there when we get there. Right now, we're kind of playing this by ear. Again, getting our feet wet, seeing what works. So cut us some slack if we're not too, if we don't have our routine down just yet.
But I've also got some new stuff lined up in case we have time for it as well. So
maybe. I mean, I didn't look for any news because I didn't think we would really talk about it this episode. But that was just me, though. I was thinking we could probably save a lot of that for next episode because there is actually a lot of stuff going on that I would like to talk about next episode that I'm probably going to get very heated about. But I'll still be civil, I promise. For my especially heated rants, those are like what my Twitter's for. I think that's about what you could probably expect from the show. I think we gave everybody a good idea, hopefully.
Yeah, it's a podcast about manga and manga news and just what's happening in the manga industry right now.
So yeah, news, stuff we're reading in general, in a nutshell, basically. Maybe a review every once in a while, maybe. we'll get there when we get there. It'll come to us. Whatever comes to us, we'll think about doing. I figured we could probably spend the rest of this episode just kind of getting to know each other here, because well, us and the audience, I guess, because the audience might not know who we are. I don't know. Do you want to go first, or should I go first?
Yeah, do you want to just say like how we got into manga, and then just some of like our experiences up to this day with manga?
I guess so. Sure. So I guess I'll go first. Just in case I didn't already say it before. My name is Colton. I don't know. Like my story isn't really all that great, because I'm trying to remember how I first got into manga. I think I first got into manga back in 2006. So I guess technically I would have been a manga fan for 10 years at this point, which is very scary to think about. I was 13 years old. No, I was 12. I was 12 around the time I got into manga, because I remember the first kind of manga I ever read was the February 2006 issue of the monthly English Shonen Jump that used to be in print a while back, which nowadays is digital and weekly and up to date with Japan. People should go buy that.
We've come a long way.
Oh, seriously, yeah. Like it's kind of amazing.
In less than 15 years, we've come such a long way.
I know, right? God, like I feel really nostalgic, because around that time I was like super into Naruto. Like Naruto, I don't think had even been on Toonami for a year at that point, just barely.
Yeah, Naruto started on Toonami in September 2005.
So yeah, like February 2006, it had only been a couple of months. So man, like, you know, seeing Naruto on the front cover of this big giant magazine, I was like, oh my god, Mom, can I buy this, please? I love Naruto. And she's like, yeah, whatever, sure. My mom was probably actually a lot nicer than that. But no, yeah, I think I have it in my room somewhere. I'm kind of looking around. Yeah, like Naruto was on the cover. I think there was a little Yu-Gi-Oh blurb on there. I think there was a little bit of Bobobo on the front as well. Like looking through this thing, I think Yu Yu Hakusho was still running in this monthly edition.
Oh yeah, Yu Yu Hakusho actually ran from the very first issue all the way. I think it's the only series in the English, like the print, at least during the print days, that actually ran its entire run in the English Jump. Like every chapter of Yu Yu Hakusho was published in the English Jump. And
that's
from
really
all the way from the first issue in like 2003 all the way to 2010, over the course of like 7 years, they ran every single chapter of Yu Yu Hakusho in the English Jump.
That really is amazing. But what was I gonna say? The thing that like really amazed me was because I don't remember if Naruto specifically had this problem, but because I don't remember how edited Naruto was when it aired on Toonami. I know it probably wasn't.
It was a bit edited at first. After Naruto picked up and became even bigger, they stopped like editing it as much. But in the early days, there were a fair amount of like blood and profanity edits and all that stuff. It was still the content. It was still like PG level. They didn't cut it down all the way to like Y7 if we. So it was still pretty good for the time. But compared to today, like I think people would have been a lot more upset by it.
I know one thing for sure: certain characters in Naruto were allowed to keep their cigarettes, while characters in One Piece had to be.
One Piece was dubbed by 4Kids, who originally planned to air it during a Saturday morning block. So
that's true. I forgot about that. Yeah, eventually, I think it used to air on the Fox box, and then it eventually just went to Toonami. But yeah, I remember watching One Piece and Naruto on Toonami, you know, before reading it at Jump. So like, I like this particular issue of Jump I have, the February 2006 issue, covers pretty much like close to end of the Arlong arc, for those of you who are into One Piece. And I was really surprised to see how much blood there was and stuff. And I was like, man, what? I don't remember One Piece being this cool. What's going on here? And like there was a lot more blood included in this that I remember seeing on TV. And also the thing was, particularly with Naruto, was I think this particular issue had the fight between Neji and Hinata from the Chunin exams, which
That's a great
obviously
fight.
well, yeah, it's a great fight. That and it hadn't aired on Toonami at the time. It was still a little ways away because I don't even think Naruto was up to the Chunin exams at that point.
No, I mean it was at during February. It was just like starting like the Chunin exams. They were like at the written portion. I remember this mainly because when the series came back for like the second like season on Toonami during like mid March, they had this like really epic like 2-minute promo for it, which today is still one of my favorite Toonami promos. But yeah,
it's pretty good. But yeah, so basically I got this issue of Jump and I was like, wow, I guess that this stuff isn't actually for kids. I feel so adult reading this. So I carried it around with me wherever I went. I would like carry it to school and I would read it. It's very worn out at this point because I used to read it so much. And then eventually, a friend of mine caught me and was like, oh, you like Shonen Jump too? And I'm like, yeah, I guess, sure. And he, because I was also a fan of Bobobo at the time, because I know Bobobo had started airing on Toonami.
Just a month after Naruto.
Yeah, and so he told me that he owned a volume of Bobobo, and I'm like, wait, Bobobo has a comic too? What? Which Bobobo has a really weird release over here because at first Viz picked up like one arc and released it as one whole volume. Mm-hmm. Then later they would, start from like volume 11 but would sell it as volume 1, and it's a whole bunch of crazy stuff that I don't want to get into because we could spend probably like a whole 30 minutes talking about it. But yeah,
maybe that's an idea. We'll have a podcast episode dedicated to Bobobo at some point.
Maybe, sure. I don't know. Most of Bobobo is kind of hard to get a hold of officially, unfortunately, because that second run didn't last very long. But
5
anyway.
volumes, pretty much, just through the end of the Third Empire arc.
So yeah, basically, I read that first one-shot of volume of Bobobo, and I was like, oh wow, there's a lot more blood in Bobobo than I remembered. Like that was the thing that.
That manga is so bloody. Like, every time someone gets hit, blood comes spewing out of their mouths. It's like, it's amazing.
It's pretty great.
It's so violent.
It's pretty great. Like, that was the thing that caught me off guard with a lot of the first manga I used to read, was like, because, I was already familiar with all these series airing on Toonami, but, reading the manga versions of all these, I was like, wow, look at all this blood. I'm suddenly, I want to read this now. Like, I was, keep in mind, I was like 12 or 13 when I first read this, so I was very easily, not amused, but I guess persuaded.
When you're that age, like, stuff with lots of blood and violence are like, oh my god, this is so adult and epic. I feel like I'm watching something really mature and stuff just because it's violent.
Yeah, exactly. So I was easily persuaded by that kind of stuff, like most preteens or whatever. And then like the first manga series I ever started collecting was One Piece. Honestly, because I picked up that issue of Jump in February, and then in April, that was when I went to Borders with my father, because I used to collect a lot of like Garfield compilations and stuff. I used to read a lot of Garfield as a kid.
Early Garfield or later Garfield?
I don't remember. I had a lot of early like late 70s Garfield, and then I had a lot of like Garfield from the 80s.
Do you have any Lyman? Do you have any ones with Lyman in it?
I don't know if I do, actually. I think I ended up getting rid of most of them, actually, because I ended up getting kind of sick of Garfield at one point. But that's neither here nor there. So yeah, basically I started collecting One Piece back in April because, you know, I had been watching the show on Toonami for a couple of months then, and I was like, oh, hey, I have Volume 1 of One Piece, I'll check this out. I was kind of flipping through it at Borders, and I was like, hey, Dad, buy this for me, and he was like, okay, sure. And basically, I like everything just kind of, like, it's history from there. The rest is history. Like, I grew to be a even bigger fan of One Piece, and I would, like, collect it. I would buy whenever, because back then One Piece's release was very not only like way behind where the Japanese release was, but it was like even farther behind from like the from where the anime was airing on TV. So for the longest time, you know, I think One Piece was released like every 3 months or so. So for the longest time, One Piece was stuck in the middle of its Alabasta arc. And then, you know, by the time Alabasta had just finished releasing here, that's when Viz started doing their
catch-up thing. That was a big deal.
That was a super big deal.
That was because like they were like 30 volumes like behind, and it's like, and the same was true for Naruto. So when they started doing that, and that was like one of the start of the big effort to get caught up with Japan, and one of the first big steps to move towards the simultaneous releases we have now.
Yeah. Thankfully, it seems that worked. Because I remember hearing that One Piece, like, because, you know, they would basically release like 5 volumes of One Piece a month for like 6 months, and I remember hearing that like all 5 volumes for whatever month would always end up on like the New York Times best-selling list for manga, which was a pretty big deal.
Especially nowadays. I think One Piece doesn't come up on the New York Times best-selling list that often. Like
not as often, no.
A volume once in a blue moon, but even then, it's like it only sticks around for 2 weeks. So.
I think it's safe to say that it's doing pretty well now, though.
One Piece is definitely not going anywhere near the manga or the anime. Like, I don't know how long the anime is going to be on Toonami, necessarily, because the ratings are kind of the worst on Toonami, but that's another thing.
Yeah, Toonami's a whole big other thing. Pretty much, yeah, the rest is history. I sort of... One Piece was, like, the first real manga I ever got into, really. Because, I mean, again, I collected Shonen Jump. I did read that volume of Bobobo, but One Piece, I think, was the thing that really solidified my love of manga, because again, that was the first series I ever started buying, honestly, and everything just kind of fell into place from there. So Sid, I think I've talked enough. Do you want to talk about how you got into manga? I'm actually kind of curious.
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you really want to be technical, the first manga I ever read was the Pokemon Adventures manga, like way back in. When I first started getting into Pokemon in 2002, after years of like, I'm not interested in Pokemon, it looks stupid. Then I actually started watching Pokemon then in 2002, like randomly, and then that's when I really got into it, and I was obsessed with Pokemon for a while, and everything became Pokemon for me, and I collected like everything, the games, the toys, watched the anime every day. I would wake up at 6 a.m. to watch the anime.
Oh, dude, like, Pokemon was Pokemon was a big love for me when I was, like, 7 or 8. I used to be really into it, too. Funny thing, I think I actually have some of the Viz Select, what did they call them? The actual, like, comic issues that they used to come out with.
Yeah, I used to read, I remember I used to pick up those at the library, and I would read them, like, just... Like, definitely, mostly Yellow Arc, mostly stuff from the Yellow Arc. I didn't read a lot of, I don't think I read any of the Red Arc back when I was a kid. It was like years later when I decided to pick up the series again that I finally read the Red Arc. But it was mostly the Yellow Arc back when I was a kid. And,
see the funny thing with me is when I was a kid, I used to be really into, like, the Pokemon anime, too. I would watch it religiously and buy all the tapes and stuff, which I think I still have. I was just watching them the other day. Really nostalgic. Like I would like my dad would like always buy me the trading cards and stuff, but I would never play with them because I didn't know how to use them.
Yeah, I just collected the trading cards just to collect them. I mean, I didn't play the game. I just collected the cards because I liked the cards.
And same thing with like the comics too. Like I would pick them up, but I don't think I ever actually read them.
Really? Well, you definitely need to read Pokemon Adventures at least. That is like probably the best like Pokemon like story between any of the media it has. Like the games, the anime, just period. Pokemon Adventures is the best story that you can probably get out of Pokemon. It's great.
Yeah, I need to read those. So I guess what was the manga that like solidified your fandom, I guess?
Well, I think like most people, that was Dragon Ball. Now, interesting, interesting enough, like Pokemon, there was like, for years I was not like, as a kid, I was not interested in Dragon Ball. I wasn't interested in like any like action stuff when I was a like young kind of kid. I did not watch Toonami like at all, like before like 2005. Because I just didn't like action stories, and specifically I didn't like superheroes when I was a kid, because I didn't like the concept of like straight good versus straight evil. As a kid, I didn't think that made sense, and I also thought costume guys beating up other costume guys was kind of silly. So I changed my obviously that changed, and I'm a huge fan of superheroes now.
Yeah, I was gonna. Sorry. I was gonna say, yeah. What kind of kid were you? Holy shit!
Like as a kid, actually, I don't know. I don't know. I just I like silly cartoons. I like over the top. I just like classic kind of comedy, like Looney Tunes. Like that was the kind of stuff that I liked mostly as a kid.
No, I don't blame you. I liked a lot of that stuff when I was a kid too. I still do.
Yeah, it's like I just didn't. As when it came to action stuff, I just didn't like the kind of story of straight good versus straight evil. Like that, that didn't. As a kid, that didn't really fit into my worldview, and I didn't really experience some of the stuff. Like I didn't really give because I had some of that kind of that preconception and kind of a bias. I didn't watch kind of stuff that might have challenged that view even earlier on, like Batman the Animated Series. Like that had really human stories, which is why I love, which is why I love superheroes now. It's like the human element of them. But anyway, I mean, Dragon Ball was also kind of that thing. It's like I didn't like stuff about fighting, so Dragon Ball Z didn't interest me. But like over the years, I mean, like around 2004, I was like, maybe I'll try some of this stuff out. So I tried interestingly enough, I didn't get into the Dragon Ball franchise with Dragon Ball, the original, or Dragon Ball Z. It was actually Dragon Ball GT that I first watched. The very first episode of Dragon Ball GT I watched was like Piccolo's decision, which was the 40th episode. It's the end of the Baby Saga, and I was like, this is kind of interesting. I don't understand at all what's going on, but that guy died, so I guess this is pretty serious kind of stuff. And then so I watched some episodes on and off, but I didn't like really make that much of an effort to keep up with it for a while until like January of 2005 when they started airing the final few episodes. At the time I didn't know they were airing the final few episodes, but like I caught like the tail end of like an episode like where like a Dragon Ball was appearing out of Goku's forehead, and I was like, that's kind of interesting. So I watched the next episode, which where like Nova Shinron came back, and like he and Goku teamed up to fight Omega Shinron. And it was like, but then Nova Shinron like dies in the end. It was like, that was pretty intense. And so then I watched like the final. So then I was like invested in what was going on. So I watched the next two episodes. But wow. Like at the end of this final episode of GT, I was like, "What? Wait a minute! It's over? What? It's already over? I just got into this!" And I kid you not, I like cried for a couple days, like because I just got into this show and I was really enjoying it, but it's already over, and I got also depressed. And then, like, I looked online, but, that was the start of me getting into Dragon Ball. That got me into Dragon Ball. And so, over the next couple of months, I would watch Dragon Ball when anything Dragon Ball whenever was on. I went to the library, I picked up, like, older DVDs I could find, and that's how I also discovered, there were and then eventually it came to my attention that there were Dragon Ball comics as well. And that's how I discovered the Dragon Ball manga. And I think the very first, like, I don't know if it's the first. I might have read 1 or 2 volumes before, but, like, the very first manga I ever bought back in March 2005 was the 18th volume of Dragon Ball Z, which contains the fight between Goku and Cell, and then later Gohan and Cell, and ends with Gohan with Android 16 sacrificing Gohan turning Super Saiyan 2 and destroying all the Cell Juniors, and it was like, I was confused how to read it at first. I remember because I looked at the back and it said you read it this way, so I read it this way, but I read it how I instructed, except not really, because I still was reading like right to left. No, I was like left to right on like the individual pages, even though I was flipping them the right way. So I was kind of confused the first time I read it, like about some panel placements and stuff. But eventually I got it. But
I remember having a lot of trouble with that at first too.
Yeah, so basically Dragon Ball. I fell in love with Dragon Ball. I was obsessed with Dragon Ball. I can do like I can talk for hours about how much I love Dragon Ball and how much Dragon Ball means to me. It is like the single piece of fiction that has most affected my life and has really inspired me and really changed the course of my life in a lot of ways. But yeah, maybe we'll save that for another time. But because I got into Dragon Ball, I started watching more anime. I started watching Toonami, and so I got into stuff that was coming out in 2005, like One Piece and Naruto and Bobobo, and then eventually, as I read more and more Dragon Ball manga, I discovered other manga of, like, the anime that I liked, like One Piece and Naruto and Bobobo. And so I would read those whenever I could find them. I'd pick up volumes from the library. And then over the years, I became more interested in other things. And so that's basically how this... And, I discovered Shonen Jump at, like, a book, like, the book, like, sale kind of thing that my middle school was doing.
You mean a book fair?
Book fair that my middle school was doing. Because back in the day, Jump was actually pretty big. Like,
oh yeah.
I mean, like, not everyone in your class was going to talk about it, but like they had like every new issue at the library, and I would and people would, and it was pretty heavily circulated. Like they did get pretty worn out pretty easily. I would always read Jump. I would always look forward to like lunch breaks where I would try and find time to sit anytime when I would be in the library where I could sit down and like read new issues. I never got to buy that many issues. The first issue I ever got, I remember had like the first episode of the Naruto anime attached to it as like a special bundle because they had some of those special promotions back then, like for that. And also, I believe, had a preview of D. Grayman, as well as like the final chapter of the Arlong arc.
I think I used to have that issue actually before I threw a lot of mine away. I still don't know why I threw my Jumps away. I still kick myself to this day.
I wish I had bought more print Jumps. That Jump that issue I can't seem to find these days. I'm sure it's somewhere around, but I don't know where it is. But basically, that's how I became a fan of manga. Like, basically, it's Dragon Ball. And, over the years, like, I've pretty much stayed interested in in manga. And, like, being interested in, like, the big, like, shonen series. Eventually, there came a point where I started keeping up with those weekly. And that's how I also discovered, like, more manga. Like... And so it just kept building up to there until now, where like I keep up with like 80 manga, and then I buy like tons of manga, and I have like 600 manga volumes on my shelf.
Oh wow, huh? See, I hate you now because I was on Twitter the other day, and I was like, I'm gonna count how many manga volumes I have, and I'm like, hey, I have 239 manga volumes, and hearing Now is that accurate? Or are you?
No, it's accurate. It's accurate. My brother has been keeping track, and we have basically 600 volumes now.
Wow. I hate you. I wish we lived a little closer so I could just borrow manga from you. Hopefully
Most of that has actually only been in like the last 3 years, because like between like 2005 and like 2013, I think during that period I had only collected about 30 volumes of manga. So it's pretty much been in the last 2 years, there's been like an exponential increase in how much manga I've been getting. So it's safe to say that I've been like more into manga. I've always been into manga, but I've been more into it in these last couple of years, and it's been a bigger like focus of my like recreational time, like in these last couple of years than it had been even before.
Oh God, I don't even. God, like. Man, like now I feel like I have to turn in my card now, because those over 200 volumes of manga I've bought over 10 years. But to be and like I don't even want to think about how much I would have had if I didn't sell all of my Naruto and Bleach. I say sell, but I think I just kind of gave away all my Naruto, because at one point I was like, you know what, I'm not that into Naruto anymore. I'm never gonna read these, so I just kind of gave them to a friend. And like we stuffed like 30 volumes worth of Naruto inside of his backpack, and he just kind of took them home with him. And I was like, I don't care, it's fine. I couldn't find find anybody who actually wanted to buy them. And then I ended up giving away my all 8 volumes of Bleach that I had for what was it, 7 volumes of Claymore or something over.
That's
over
not a
some
bad
kind
trade.
of like. Yeah, I used to like use this manga trading group on Yahoo or something. I forget what it was, but I only ever made like one successful trade. Otherwise, like I would always try to make trades with people, but nobody would ever want what I have. So me trying to sell my manga off has never been very successful. But anyway, I do want to talk about a few more other things before we wrap up in like the next 10 or 20 minutes or so. So do you have a favorite manga?
I have lots of favorite manga. Do you want to like how long do you like, how many do you want us?
Can we whittle that down to 3?
Yeah, we can. Do you want to start, or do you want me to start? Like,
well, fine. I guess I could start.
Because I just talked for like, I don't know how long that was, but
yeah. It was hard for me to try to find a place in there to try to insert myself.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. We'll work on it. It's our first episode, guys. Cut us some slack. See, it's weird because like because this is because my favorite anime and favorite manga lists are very different. Because nowadays I don't enjoy the One Piece anime as much as I used to.
Yeah, I stopped watching it like Jeez, Fishman Island. Oh, that broke. That was a hard one to get through in the manga, but that broke me in the anime.
You are a wimp. I watched all of that in the anime.
Oh, I could not. I had to give up, man. I could not do that.
No. The pacing for both is awful though. For that particular arc. But anyway, yeah. So I don't like the anime as much as I used to, but I still love the manga. I still read it every week.
Yeah.
So One Piece is pretty much my number one favorite manga, like no question, honestly. Honestly, I feel like because I like Gintama is my number one favorite anime of all time, like no question, seriously. Like I won't go on about it too much here because I already have another podcast to talk about Gintama for, but Gintama I think probably has the best anime adaptation out of any shonen property I've ever seen animated, honestly. Maybe Yu Yu Hakusho is probably a close second to that, in my opinion.
That would probably be... I mean, I've only seen like a third of the Gintama anime, technically. Like,
yeah, you need to fix that.
Yeah, I need to see all of it. So, I mean, I've read all the manga, but I need to watch all the anime. But, I mean, if I had to choose, like, the best adaptation of a shonen manga, for me, it'd be Yu Yu Hakusho, because I feel that they made some changes to the material, and just the way the presentation is in terms of the directing and the animation and like the performance, I feel that it really elevates this content to a whole nother level. And also the Street Kings arc isn't shit like it is in the manga.
Bleep all those out, editor. I forgot we weren't gonna curse, but whatever.
Oh, I forgot to. Sorry, but yeah, no,
okay.
the Street King arc is not. It is terrible. Have you ever read it in the manga, Colton?
I've only read like the first volume of Yu Yu Hakusho. I'm currently trying to collect all of that so I can read it all in a row.
Yeah, the Three Kings arc in the anime, it's coherent and it's a satisfying ending to the series. But in the manga, it's like Takashi did not care. He wanted to get the series canceled as fast as possible because he has no more interest in continuing. He basically put no effort into it, and it's a mess, and it's terribly written, and the art is no, it's just
Sid, calm down, Sid. One day we will dedicate an entire episode to Yu Yu Hakusho.
We also need to do an entire episode of One Piece. That was another session I had for years, and I have a lot to say on that. So
that's an idea.
Yeah.
Maybe one day, but yeah. So what I was gonna say was it's funny because like One Piece is my number one favorite manga, but like it's like one of my least favorite anime. And then Gintama is like my number one favorite anime, but it's kind of, I mean I don't know, cause like for my podcast, I started reading the manga from the very beginning because I hadn't read a lot of it, but I'm also caught up to current material, so it's like night and day in terms of like the art. So I don't know how I really feel about the manga overall, just cause I'm kind of all over the place. But I do have other manga that I enjoy more than it. So
for me personally, the Gintama manga is in like my top 10, I would say.
I feel like it would be in my top 10 if when I finish reading all of it. But unfortunately, the problem is there's only I think the first 23 volumes is only available over here, and the rest, unfortunately, you kind of have to find through other means, of which I will not say because we're not gonna be talking about that kind of stuff. We're not gonna tell you where to find scans. That people can do that all on their own. We don't need to help people do that. It's kind of not good. But anyway, so yeah, I love One Piece. I love Ice Shield 21. That's definitely my second favorite of all time. Yusuke Murata is definitely one of my favorite manga artists.
Oh yeah, he's a master artist. I mean, I need to read. I mean, I keep trying to. I really need to read more Ice Shield 21. Like, I watched the test dub when it was done on Toonami Jetstream. Like, years ago, I watched the test dub on Toonami Jetstream, and I actually, at the time, I liked it. I didn't know it was hacked up and bad. But
oh god, yeah.
Later I watched like the first set of the anime that was released, and I also like that. It's not. I mean, the anime is not as good, not that good.
Oh no, not at all.
I still like the characters and the story. So then I read like the first one in the manga. I like the manga, but it's just been on my backlog so long. I'm really hoping that one day Wiz like does a bundle for that, because I want to just pick up all the volumes like digitally and like read them.
Oh yeah,
I feel that would be really easy.
Oh yeah, totally.
At this point. So I'm hoping that happens sometime soon. So
but just to kind of list some other stuff I really like Ice Shield 21 are both my all-time favorites. I really like stuff like I love it's not licensed, unfortunately, and I don't think it has an official English title, but I love Majin Tante no Gami Nero, which I think is supposed to translate to like Supernatural Detective Nero, who I'm sure a lot of people listening to this might not be too familiar with that series, but hopefully people will want to check it out or read it somehow when I say that that is the author of Assassination Classroom behind that. That was his first work. Yep. He's definitely one of my favorite artists too. Like, I love his stuff. Like that's part of the reason why I've been reading Assassination Classroom from the very beginning since it was first scanned. Because I love that author. And then Takehiko Inoue,
he's a master artist.
Yeah, I love a lot of his stuff, which, for those who don't know, is the author of Slam Dunk and Vagabond, I think, currently. But
also Real.
And Real too. Yeah, I still need to read more of that.
Real is a brilliant series.
It's really good. It's really good. From the little I've read of it, I really like it. In terms of like what kind of manga I like, though, obviously I'm a huge shonen fan. Like even like really bad stuff, I could still find something to enjoy most of the time. It's very rare that I find a shonen manga that I like absolutely hate. There are definitely a lot of like underdeveloped canceled titles out there, unfortunately, because Jump is very strict about its quality most of the time. And unfortunately, a lot of stuff that runs in Jump, if it doesn't have a big readership quick enough, I guess, it gets canceled. I've seen a lot of different series get canceled by like 12 chapters. So yeah, again, Jump is very strict about their quality, but that's neither here nor there.
Well, it's more about a lot about popularity, too.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, thank you. Where was I going with that? So yeah, I love shonen stuff. What I don't think is licensed enough are like delinquent manga. Like I haven't read a lot of like when I say delinquent manga, I mean like a manga about high school Yankee delinquent bad boys who do nothing but like smoke and skip class and fight other students and stuff. Like I love stuff like that. I am such a sucker for that kind of aesthetic, honestly.
One of my I have some friends on this forum I go to who are huge fans of that as well.
And then I think there was another, like, I love Yakuza stuff, which I don't think there's a lot of that kind of stuff available like via like for purchase over here in the States, or even scanlated, honestly, or at least not a lot that I've found. But if anything I'm reading involves Yakuza or delinquent high schoolers, you've pretty much got me sold, honestly. I guess what kind of actually, I haven't even asked you, what are your favorite manga titles?
Well, my taste in anime manga also tend to like vary. Some things I like more as manga, and some things I like more as anime. The exception is with my top 3 favorites. They are the same for both anime and manga. So I guess maybe... I don't know if I want to count down or just how I want to list them. But I guess, I'll just count down. So like... you know what? I won't count down. I'll just first off... Because 2 of them are by the same mangaka, for one thing. But they're spaced out. So, I might as well talk about them together. So instead, I'll first talk about a series that unfortunately is not licensed over here, and probably will not because of how old it is. And but it's a classic of the medium. I would say one of the definitive manga, one of the most definitive manga ever. And its influence in the resonance it had in Japan is like almost unparalleled. This is a series where people actually held a funeral for a character that died in it. They held a funeral, an actual funeral. It wasn't a joking thing. They actually cared about this character so much they held a funeral for him. That is how much it resonated, inspired with people in Japan back in the day, and the final image of that series is also completely, incredibly iconic. And enough beating around the bush.
Yeah, get on with it.
That series is Ashina no Joe by, let's see, Iki Kawajiri. That's not his real name, that's his pen name. And the artist is Tetsuo Chiba. And Ashina no Joe is it's a fairly old. It's a pretty old manga. It's quite old.
Isn't it from the 60s?
Yeah, it's from the late 60s, early 70s.
Oh boy.
But it is not only but like I said, it is one of the definitive works of manga, I feel, like just in general. Especially for sports series. I don't think there like so many sports series, especially Hajime no Ippo, owe a lot to it. And for those who don't know what a Ashino no Joe is, it's about this guy from the from it's set in like the post World War II, like basically kind of how Japan was in like the 60s, and it's about a delinquent from the slums, Joe Yubuki, who basically lives his life without a care in the world at first, but then he is a retired like boxing manager, Donpei Tenji, notices his potential for the sport, and so he convinces Joe to let him train him and to become a boxer. And so Joe begins a long journey. Well, at first he doesn't take it seriously. At first he like decides to exploit Dange and pretend to train and just to get food off of him. But eventually he commits a crime and lands him in like jail. And there he meets one of the rising stars in the boxing world, Rikishi Toru, and forms a rivalry with him. And that's what inspires him to pick up boxing seriously. And the series follows Joe as he rises through the ranks in the boxing world, all through ups and downs. And those downs are wow. It is a heartbreaking manga in places. It is like really emotionally intense, but the character of Joe is just so inspiring. It's like he's kind of an asshole at the start. He kind of always is kind of a cocky, like smart ass kind of guy throughout the series, but there's a lot of heart to him, and he's like he represents kind of a hero. He represented kind of like a hero. A kind of like an everyman kind of character for like people in Japan during the late 60s. Like he like just an everyman, and it's like his story is like kind of the story of trying to rise up and seek a better life and pursue his dream, like no matter like the obstacles and the challenges, and he willing to risk his life to do it. And the series is an emotional roller coaster, and it's incredibly gripping and intense, beginning to end. The art, it might be from a 40-year-old series, but I gotta tell you, the art is phenomenal. It stands up, it stands to the test of time. Everything about that series is timeless and masterful, and it is one of the best manga ever made. And it's really sad that people probably not get licensed because Iki Kawajiri is not as a household name. Like, I mean, he's not as famous as Osamu Tezuka over here, and it's a 40-year-old series. But at least the second anime of it is available legally over here on Crunchyroll under the title Champion Joe 2. I personally would recommend to like at least to read the first 10 volumes of the manga before jumping into that series, because it is a sequel series, and like while you might not like it might not deter your enjoyment from it because like it is a distinct half, you are going to get spoiled on a major plot point in the story that's really important to experience like firsthand. So definitely like watch the first series, because I don't think that's ever gonna get licensed, because I don't know.
Probably not.
So either watch like the first like 50 or so episodes of the first series, or read the manga up to that point. But definitely check Ashino no Joe out. It is definitely one of the best, and it's a work that really affected me personally, and I think it will resonate with a lot of people. It resonates with most people as well. But I mean, so that was Ashino no Joe, and then there are two other manga I will mention. I know we're kind of running long here, but
yeah, we should probably just name them off, and then we can just kind of go from there.
Yeah, well, we should just do a whole podcast about this mangaka later, because I love this mangaka. She is one of my favorites. She is my second favorite after Osamu Tezuka, the god of manga himself. And these two series of hers are like one of them is like definitely my all-time favorite. I cannot get it out of my mind. I read. There's not a single day that goes by that I don't like think about or revisit it in some form. And the other one is easily the best like romantic comedy anime manga that there ever was. The definitive one for sure. And those series are Urusei Yatsura and Maison Ikkoku by Rumiko Takahashi. And I don't know. I don't know how I could go on so long about these series, and I already went so long about Shonen Jump. So we should just do. I'll probably go more into them in length, like if we ever do like a podcast about Rumiko Takahashi.
I think what I think. But before we start wrapping up here, real quick, what I actually that's a pretty good idea because I haven't really read a lot. I don't think I've read any of Rumiko Takahashi's works. I think it would be cool to do kind of a special podcast about a special podcast where maybe you can maybe we could talk. You could tell me about her works, and you could convince me why I should read Rumiko Takahashi's works. Because not that I don't have an opinion of her works because I've barely read anything from her. Maybe like a chapter of Inuyasha, and that's it. But like to me, her art styles like. Her art styles never really grabbed me personally.
I mean, I love her aesthetic myself, but her art style has actually changed over the years. Like, her art style in Urusei Yatsura is completely different from the art style she uses in Rinne now. But yeah, let's save that kind of stuff for a Rumiko Takahashi podcast because I don't want to get started on that. But what I will say about Urusei Yatsura and Maison Ikkoku is that Maison Ikkoku is definitely, I would think, the definitive like romantic comedy anime, definitely the mature romantic comedy anime. Certainly, like I think a bunch of stuff that came after it takes huge inspiration for it. And Urusei Yatsura is one of the most influential anime manga, like in general. Definitely, the impact it left. There's so many things I could mention about it. Like for one thing, the anime of Urusei Yatsura is what trendsetted the practice of using Japanese pop songs as openings. I mean, that's pretty significant in itself. But there's also so much like about what the series did. I mean, it basically like defined what modern anime comedy as we know it, and it's definitely like my favorite anime manga, and I would highly advise people to check them out. Urusei Yatsura and Maison Ikkoku are out of print, and Urusei Yatsura was never fully released here, but you can hunt down the volumes where you might find them. There might still be some Maison Ikkoku volumes on Right Stuff. The anime DVDs were also released over here, but they're also kind of hard to find. Out of print might be a little expensive, but you can read and watch these series. I highly recommend them. I definitely think they are classics and really important and entertaining works, and I love them a lot. So there you go.
Well, there you go. I think everybody's gotten a good idea of what kind of manga we like, and hopefully people who visit allcomic.com will trust us with the manga section here. I mean, it's not like I don't think we're gonna be the only ones driving forward the manga section of all comic. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I just got a message from Tyler saying that big stuff's planned, so I think big stuff's coming to all comics in terms of manga.
Yeah, I know he's always looking for people, and he's been trying to look for as many people to help with the manga stuff on the website as he can. So hopefully it'll grow, and hopefully this podcast will grow, and hopefully we can get some kind of routine going here, and hopefully we won't go on as long as we did this episode. I wonder how much of it is going to be edited down. I have no idea. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode of Manga Mavericks. You should probably tell people where they can find us in case they're interested in following us on other stuff. So, Sid, where can the good people find you?
You can find me under various names. The big two being LumRanmaYasha and Cartoon X. You can find me at LumRanmaYasha at Twitter and my anime list. and Cartoon X on various forums like Toon Zone or Animation Revelation. And yeah, that's where you can find me.
And you can find me. I'm Colton. You can find me on Twitter at SniperKing323. That's SNIPERKING323. I practically live on Twitter. I'm very active on there, so if anybody wants to talk to me about manga, hit me up in general. I'm usually pretty friendly. I don't mind talking to people. I'm pretty open about talking to people on the internet, unlike real life, but that got a little personal. So anyway, yeah, just hit me up on Twitter. You know, I like talking to people. And I mean, I got a lot of other podcasts, but I don't think I have the time to go over all of them. So for now, I'm a huge fan of Gintama, and if you are too, you can listen to Life Lessons, the Gintama Manga Cast. That's gintalifelessons.wordpress.com. We like to talk about the Gintama manga as was released by Viz from the very beginning. Go listen to that, please, if you're a fan of Gintama, or if you don't know anything about Gintama, you want a taste of what it's like. Go listen to our podcast. It's a nice little companion piece for if you want to read the manga. So, I think that's about it. Hopefully, this episode wasn't too long. Hopefully, you enjoyed it. If you didn't like it, I promise we'll get better. I promise. It's our first episode. So please cut us some slack. So. From all of us here at allcomic.com, I suppose, I guess we'll see you guys next time.
Bye-bye!